Good evening. It's good to see you all here in the Zendo. And on Zoom, we have Scott and Bob and Ariel. It's great to have you all here. It would be really sad if I talked to myself. So I don't know if you were here last week, but I spoke of women pirates and women warriors. And I'd love to fill tonight with more stories of queens and warlords. However, I have much more ground to cover. So tonight I'll talk about invisible scars, the Matilda effect, and how we can practice with all of this. This body, this time, this place, right here, right now. And let me start with another Gina Puro poem. And if you're feeling a bit prude tonight, please stop or up your ears or skip the next 5 minutes. So here's the poem. You must have confused me with another woman or another version of me from 3 days or 3 years or 3 lovers or 3 lifetimes ago. Back when I still thought that grace meant keeping my eyes closed and my mouth shut. You say you love me, but maybe that's only when there's no one else available to mother you. You say you support me, but maybe that's only when it's your shoulders holding up my ankles. I can't hear your excuses over the tea kettle screaming while I knit myself a sweater from all the message threads left unanswered. And I must have forgotten when exactly it was that I agreed to be at the bottom of your never-ending to-do list. You want to check your math because 3 half-truths plus 10 white lies don't up to anything that I want to hear right now. And I could fill canyons with all the things you failed to mention, but please explain to me one more time how I've misinterpreted reality. Listen, there are 10,000 other things I could be doing with my precious time than wait for you to decide if I'm worth some of yours. And while I sit here and listen to you tell me that I need too much, I've grown wings and claws and fangs, and fire is sparking from my tongue, with datura flowers blossoming underneath my breasts, and a supernova exploding between my thighs, and I don't think you understand who you are talking to. Listen, I'm not your mother, and I'm not that nice. And while you weave me another story about why you are sorry, my tea has gone cold. My patience has worn thin. My grace has dried up. Your time has run out. And I'm already writing a new fairy tale because there are kings among men, and somewhere a court is missing its jester. The Cuban French American writer Anais Nin wrote, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are." She also wrote, "Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage." Tonight, I will continue to explore projections and the way we see ourselves, with a particular emphasis on a woman's experience. But I do want to talk honestly and clearly from a woman's point of view. because Dharma must include all our lives. And it doesn't mean I don't like men or that I hate them or that they don't have their own troubles and their own points of view. I'm just saying they're different and they seem to be at the forefront a lot, while the woman's voice is not heard so often. But first, I would like to talk a bit more about projections and how they impact our lives. Believe it or not, this all started out with a Facebook post. Yes, I am so old that I use Facebook. I'm sorry. And that Facebook post claimed we are living in a hallucination, or we are who we think we are. So in this Facebook post, there was a study reference from 1980 by Clegg, R&E and Strenta, and it was titled Perceptions of the Impact of Negatively Valued Physical Characteristics on Social Interactions. I know that's a mouthful. Let me say it again. Perceptions of the impact of negatively valued physical characteristics on social interaction. In my Dharma talk, I'm going to leave out all the double-blind tests and all this stuff because it's not that relevant to what I'm trying to say. But if you want to find it online, it exists and it does show you that they did real science, believe it or not. So back to that study. I'm sorry, my allergies are extra bad today, so I need to drink a lot. In short, subjects were told they had either a facial scar, mild epilepsy, or a neutral condition. Facial scars and epilepsy were perceived to be negative by the subjects, while allergies or other neutral things, they were just neutral. Okay. So a well-done fake scar was applied to their cheek, and the subject saw what it looked like and what they looked like. Then they were sent out to have casual conversations with strangers. But right before they left the room, the researchers told them they had to do one last adjustment with the fake scar, but they didn't adjust anything. They removed it. So the subjects meeting the strangers in the test believed that they were severely disfigured, while in truth they just looked normal. They were not. When the subjects returned, they reported that the strangers showed strong signs of negative reaction, such as tense posture, limited eye contact, something they avoided looking at them, or that they pitied them. But there was no scar. The only thing that had changed was the projection of the participants in the study. They saw themselves as damaged, and their brain found exactly what they had expected. Projection, not reality, shaped their experience. How much of what humans see is happening objectively? How much subjectively? Let's think about this in terms of politics, social media, news, in terms of the source we choose to consume the news. Nothing feeds our ego better than being a victim and being able to blame others. This study indicates that we do not perceive reality. It shows that we don't see the world as it is. It shows the world as we are. We take memories, traumas, expectations, values, projections, and we paint a picture out of it. We don't see the world as it is. We see what our brain expects based on our conditioning. It feels real because it is based on embodied experience. We train ourselves to see it. We expect it. We feel it in our bodies. And in turn, this is what we expect to see the next time. This is what we project. Everything we perceive out there is shaped what's been in here for a long time. I'm quoting Irene Sonding. The problem is not subjectivity. The problem is that most people believe they are objective. They wonder, why can't people agree on simple facts anymore? The answer is that most people can't see the facts. They're seeing what their conditioning projects into the present and into the future. But we need to learn how to stop these projections. We need to see how we project all the time. What scars do we believe we carry after they've been long gone? What would change in your life and mine if we stop believing in those scars? So, what invisible scars do women carry? As of 2021, the World Economic Forum ranks the United States 30th in terms of gender equality out of 149 countries. It's actually not too bad. But it was only 105 years ago that the 19th Amendment of the Constitution allowed women the right to vote nationwide. In addition, the Women's Bureau of the Department of Labor was created to monitor working conditions for women in the workforce. I might say some of women's scars remain visible to this day. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex was first introduced in 1923. It passed successfully both houses of Congress in 1972. However, it failed to be ratified by an adequate number of states and died in 1982. So yes, some of the scars are still visible in legislation and statistics in the daily lives of women here and across the world. While we are at it, here comes the Matilda effect. I know I've been mentioning that Don't be embarrassed if you don't know what it is. I didn't either. But the Matilda effect is a bias against acknowledging the achievements of women scientists and inventors whose work is attributed to their male colleagues. The phenomenon was first described by suffragist and abolitionist Matilda Joslyn Gage. She lived from 1826 to 1898 in her essay, Woman as Inventor. And the term Matilda effect was coined in 1993 by science historian Margaret Rossiter. An early example of the Matilda effect was Trotula, Trotta of Salerno, 12th century. She was an Italian physician and author of medical literature. After her death, her books were attributed to male authors, including her husband and her son. Hostility toward women as teachers and healers led to denial of her very existence. Monks and later male scholars confused her name for that of a man. She is not mentioned in the Dictionary of Scientific Biography. But this isn't just something that happened to medieval physicians. But just as powerful as the invisible scars, maybe more powerful, are the invisible scars, the internalized stories, our conditioned self, the scars inside us, the ones that shape not only how others treat us, but how we expect to be seen and treated because we are covered by scars. These are the projections that live inside us. Like the participants in the study, we walk around carrying old narratives. We project our fear of being unseen, unheard, and undervalued. And sometimes we find exactly that. And this is where Dharma practice becomes essential. When I still lived in Germany, I worked in construction management, architectural design, and so on. I thought I was pretty good, even fresh out of university. I'd been around construction my whole life. I had my own mishaps with it, including falling down off a roof. Before I was 20, I had been blown out. I had been able to blow out a big concrete form because I vibrated it a bit too much. But I was physically really fit, and I loved being one of the guys. I didn't even mind that they ripped me on a daily basis for wearing leather gloves because I didn't want my hands to look like theirs. I had great support for my first few jobs, both as working in construction and as a construction manager. I was paired up with sympathetic foremen and crew chiefs. Most of them had daughters my age, really good guys. And now looking back, I have to say, I never thanked them enough. And also my dad, who helped arrange those things. I never thanked them enough for that support. I was just a little engine that could. I thought I could, and then I did. But in many, many other ways, I carried my invisible scars. I carried them in my own body without knowing it. for years. I grew up in a very conservative household. My mom was the traditional housewife, and my dad was the boss. Actually, I think for the last 5 years I lived in Germany, I always addressed him as chef, which does not mean cook in German. That means boss. Hey, boss. uh, so mom cooked and sewed and hated risk in all forms. One of her favorite sayings was that it is better to be a coward for 5 minutes than to be dead for the rest of your life. She did not want my excellence. She wanted me to be invisible, obedient, good, and pretty. I failed on several of those. I failed in several of those categories. She wanted me to get married. She wanted grandchildren. And even though it never really was the life I wanted for myself, I can't believe how deep those imprints ran and continue to run. Because growing up, our family life is like the only life we know. Forty years later, I still carry those invisible scars. The conditioning, though, I would say that I strayed far away from the life my mom envisioned for me, further than she could ever have imagined at the time. Zen Master Dogen wrote, to carry the self forward and experience the 10,000 things is delusion. That the 10,000 things come forward and experience themselves is awakening. When we move through life with our conditioning, our old stories about ourselves, what we're worth, how others see us, what roles we are allowed to play, and how we play them, we carry the self forward. We are living in the hallucination, we are projecting. So, how do we stop? Do we stop the projection? How do we stop the hallucination? We sit, we practice, we study the mind, we learn to recognize when we are reacting to the world as we fear it, not as it actually is. And I ask, what happens when we stop assuming that we are broken? What happens when we stop apologizing for taking up space? What happens when we turn the light inward, not to blame ourselves, but to liberate ourselves from our invisible scars? For me, it starts in Zazen. The process starts with identifying the scars and becoming intimate with our wounds on the cushion. Zazen is where we meet the invisible scars, not by analyzing them or thinking about them, but by making space. When we sit still, the scars have space to speak. They may show up as a tightness, a restlessness, or they may just show up as tears for months and months and months. That is practice. We bow to it. We let our pain and our tears teach us. And we remember, women do not need to earn a place in the Dharma world. They've always been part of it. from Mahapachapati Gautami to Iron Grinder Lu, to the unnamed women keeping practice alive in homes, kitchens, fields, and forests. Their place has always existed. Reclaiming it, remembering it, stepping into it, and not apologizing for standing there. This place is not borrowed, it's ours. And it always has been. The Dharma invites us to see clearly, not just the self, but the structures around us. We as women face obstacles such as erasure, the Matilda effect, the projection of others as being seen as too much, too emotional, not spiritual enough, too worldly. There are double standards. What's clarity and ambition in a man is seen as aggression in a woman. Often we are conditioned to serve, support, and stay small. When we as women meet these obstacles, we can say, this too is suffering. This too is an obstacle. But obstacles do not mean defeat. In Zen practice, obstacles are the path. Just this. Remember, when you meet an obstacle, bow to it and then step over it. Sometimes you need to gently kick it out of the way. So I say, practice like your life depends on it, because it does. Not just yours, but the future's. Not by erasing womanhood, but by bringing it fully to life here and now. This world needs the full Dharma, not a disembodied, polite, linear Dharma, but the wild, earthy, scarred, sensual, courageous Dharma of women. The Dharma that makes good trouble, cooks meals, kicks some butt, raises children, bleeds, births, fights the good fight, sings, buries, and sits still in the middle of it all. This is the path. Women are often told, explicitly and implicitly, that their power must be softened, their rage purified, and their grief hidden to be truly spiritual. But not Zen. Our practice asks us to bring the whole heart, body, mind to the cushion. That means bowing with anger in your chest. That means sitting zazen in the middle of your grief. That means practicing in the middle of your rage. That means upholding precepts in the middle of it all. That means letting your power rise like a mountain and not shrink into a pebble. So let us take this to the cushion the next time we sit. Let us sit, not to fix ourselves, but to reclaim ourselves. Not to purify away our pain, but to meet it and integrate it. This is our place in the Dharma, not borrowed, not granted. It's always been ours. Now we take our place between heaven and earth. Fire is sparking from my tongue, says the poet. And the Dharma says, let it burn through delusion. Thank you very much for listening to my talk.